So for step 5, attaching the motor. Well, we're using the 15-tooth pinion gear, so this step is correct for us. Now, why does it matter? Well, depending on the pinion gear that you use, there are these set plates that will determine how the motor is going to be attached to the gearbox. So you can see these set plates right there. There are 4 of them, and of course there's some of our other things for this step. We've got the tube, the washer, and the screws. But because it's a 15-tooth, you can see that we're going to use 2 on one side of the screw and 2 on the other. Now, if we were using some of these other choices, the 13-tooth is going to have all 4 of the set plates and then the motor. This one 3 to 1, and this one 4 on one side and the motor on the other. So in other words, this placement is determined by what pinion gear we're using. So again, in our case, we've got 2 aside and the screw goes through the center, just like that diagram shows. So I'll set this up and let's put this on. So first off, let's put the main screw in. So you can see here that you've got this hole on either side, and the set plates have to go on either side of the screw. So if we put one in, and I've got my finger on the other side just so that it stops it from sliding through, and we grab another set plate and put that one in there. And I'm going to turn this around, and I'm also using this tool that comes with the Tamiya kit to push it down into place, just to make sure that it's sitting level. And now we can put the screw, and I've put the washer on. It's got to fit on one side, and now I can use the screw and hold that in at this side, and we're going to pull that down. And now we're going to slide one of the set plates in there. In fact, for whatever reason, this is mine. You may not discover this, but mine seems to be a tighter fit. So I'm having to use a tool to push these plates into place. Because normally they're loose, and the reason I say that is I'm building the Super Saber at the same time, and this part of the gearbox is pretty much the same. But in the Super Saber, all of this was super loose. You didn't even, there's no way it would have sat like that. So anyways, by doing it that way, we can now slide that through and in between. There we go. So ultimately, it's going to look like that. You've got the 2 set plates on either side and then the screw, just like that. So now what we can do is we can put this in. And again, I'm going to make sure that it's just the one hole on the one side, and we're going to put that way. But before we do that, we're going to add more grease to the pinion gear. I know I've got lots of grease on the drive gear, so I'm just going to spread that around, and there we go. So again, I'm going to grab this, we're going to put that into place, and that screw hole right there needs to match up with the bottom. So we can actually turn this upside down, make sure that we're matching that hole. There it is. And now I'm going to use the screwdriver to screw that one in place. Now, I'm not going to go all the way. I just want to make sure that it's in place. Okay, so it is. Now, for this one, in order to get this next bit in, you have to remove this gear joint out again. And if you remember, it was a pretty tight fit for some reason. In fact, it doesn't necessarily want to come out, so I'll just give it a little help. There we go. And what we need to do is be able to put this brass tube right through there, and then we have our screw that has to go through that and into the other hole of the motor. So if I gotta find that hole, I think we've got it. Now we can screw this in. But it's obvious it hasn't found the hole. There we go. Okay, so now that we know that, I'm going to switch the screwdriver and we're going to tighten this all up. And don't over tighten, but just make sure that it's definitely on there fairly tight. Yep, I'm good with that. So the last thing we do is we put our drive cup back, and you'll notice down there that the flat is this way, so that's how it's going to have to go back. And there we go. So there is our motor attached to the gearbox. And the pinion's all set correctly. Oh, and that's come out again. So, I don't know. I think they should have saved this for later to put those pieces in, because they seem to want to keep popping out. But there we go. There's both of them on either side. So, step 5 is now complete. So we can now move on to step 6 and work on attaching the gears with the front gearbox.